From the pandemic to comings and goings in law enforcement, 2021 was a pretty busy year. And for his last story with WTAP, Todd Baucher looks back on yet another year to remember.
This was the scene on the first weekend of 2021, as hundreds created an unusual traffic jam in downtown Parkersburg in an effort to get the first several dozen available COVID-19 vaccinations. Scenes like this perhaps persuaded Governor Jim Justice to declare West Virginia was vaccinating its way out of the pandemic.
Today is the day that we are absolutely getting rid of our mask.
But then came the Delta and at year's end the Omicron variants, and it appeared we were no closer to the end than we were at the beginning of the pandemic in March 2020. 22 months into the pandemic, West Virginia had reported more than 5,000 deaths. Ohio's death toll was more than 28,000. The major summer festivals resumed in 2021 after being shut down the year before. That included the Belpre and Parkersburg Homecomings and the Ohio River Sternwheel Festival. But some earlier in the summer were canceled for another year, and the 3-year-old Marietta Sweet Corn Festival ended for good. 2 law enforcement officers stepped down due to allegations of a hostile work environment in their offices. Wood County Sheriff Steve Stevens retired December 1st after a no-confidence vote by several of his deputies and a number of lawsuits. Former longtime deputy and County 911 Director Rick Woodyard was sworn in to replace him. Marietta Police Chief Rodney Hupp retired in July and was replaced by Captain Aaron Neediff. Several West Virginians were among those arrested after the January 6 protests at the U.S. Capitol that briefly delayed Congress certification of the results of the 2020 presidential election. Among the notables, newly elected State Delegate Derek Evans, who resigned after the protests before he officially took his seat in the legislature. Former Parkersburg City Councilman Eric Barber pleaded guilty late in the year to charges related to the insurrection. He is scheduled to be sentenced at the end of March. A scandal involving a holiday toy drive rocked Pleasants County in late summer. The prosecutor and assistant prosecutor were both disciplined, and the county's magistrates resigned over a promotion where minor traffic offenders were given an option to contribute money and be forgiven their offenses. It was learned more serious offenders were allowed to do the same. A number of murder cases delayed due to the pandemic were resolved in Wood County during the year. James T. Hendershot was found guilty in May for the death of his father in 2018. Chester Lilly III was convicted in July for the 2019 stabbing death of Travis Peters. Dominic McClung was the last of 3 people sentenced for the Labor Day weekend 2019 death of Karen Yeager in Parkersburg. And Michael Johns was sentenced in late May for the death of Christopher Valkos in February of last year. And during 2021, Hillary Dennison was charged with killing her father and fiancé in Williamstown. Eric Mullins is charged with the death of Lisa Rogers, whose body was found in a home at 13th and Latrobe Street in late November. In Washington County, Isaiah Campbell was sentenced, and 2 others remain charged for the near-fatal beating in February of Devin Hours. Lionel Gore has pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity to the death of his mother in November. Authorities say he killed Diane Gore before setting her New Matamoros home on fire. And after more than 25 years, Scott Hickman was charged with the 1995 death of a mother and young child while their mobile home was destroyed in a Washington County fire. Authorities have long stated Kimberly and Daniel Fulton were murdered before the fire broke out. And in other cases, a former Marietta Middle School basketball coach was accused of having sexual contact with teenage boys.
Mr. Hall, welcome to Washington County.
Nicholas Hall was accused of a series of bomb threats over several days in May, mainly targeted at Washington County schools, but which extended as far as schools in the Columbus area. And a Marietta man, Nathaniel Becker, was arrested and charged in connection with the discovery in October of several potentially explosive devices on barges along the Ohio River. Concern over the growing number of addiction treatment centers and group homes was a hot topic in both Parkersburg and Vienna during the summer. Both cities' councils voted to place a moratorium on new facilities while it's determined how they may be contributing to the area's homeless population. The moratoriums are expected to continue through next June. Governor Jim Justice proposed what he called a game changer to the West Virginia legislature in the form of a repeal to the state's income tax. But lawmakers and several business groups balked at the taxes that would have replaced the income tax, and the measure was given a resounding defeat when it got to the floor of the House of Delegates. Some notable passings included a 3-year-old girl, Jillian Harlow, who lost her battle with a prenatal congenital heart disorder in March. And a longtime fixture on Daybreak, Susan Shepard, died in April. The noted storyteller and astrologist led the haunted Parkersburg tours during the Halloween season. The year ended with the closing of financially troubled Ohio Valley University nearly 18 months after it had been placed on probation by college accreditors. The school's Board of Trustees voted not to offer classes for the spring semester, just as West Virginia's Higher Education Policy Commission rescinded the Christian school's ability to award degrees. Some retirements and planned retirements were announced late in the year. Parkersburg Police Chief Joseph Martin, one of the longest-serving police chiefs in the city's history, retired on Christmas weekend. And Wood County Clerk Mark Rhodes announced he would not run for re-election when his term comes up in 2022. It's been my privilege to serve this entire area for more than 4 decades, and thank you for electronically inviting me into your homes every day. For one final time, this is Todd Baucher, WTAP News, and this is home.